Welcome to the Introduction to Code Generation. This is a part of the tutorials for creating services, but it's an optional part. We will explain shortly here what the maybe unknown files like IVML, VIL and VTL files do in the project. We have some prerequisites, usually. In this case, there's nothing required for this to be watched, as it's a standalone piece and you can watch it at any time. Maybe you're just watching it as you got curious why creating services, or you do it beforehand. There's nothing optional you can or should have watched before this. Like I said, this is standalone. We start with code generation. Here we have multiple levels. We have IVML, which is describing the artifacts we want to build. And we have VTL and VIL, which describe the whole process of how to turn the description of IVML into actionable artifacts. A user will mostly work with IVML, as describing his service is the goal here, and the translation of this into finished artifacts like templates or finished code parts that can be used is prepared and already done. In the future, also the IVML part will be superseded by a UI, which should make this whole process a bit more easy. IVML describes the variability and attributes of code artifacts. As an example, we have a service and that service has a name, and that is a variability because other things will be dependent on this name. So every part knows there's a name, and we actually give the name a value, which then is put at every needed instance of this. The top level of an IVML file is the project. In our case, a project describes an application. It is similar to a class in Java, which is on the top of the file, and the needed part for also the instantiation process to be known. It supports basic types like Boolean, integer, real, string, and the composition of new types, which is what we will use to create our data types. It supports the composition of the new types through compounds. We have an example at the bottom of the page. We see the compound Python dependency, which defines dependency. Here we define a new type, and this type is using or refining an already defined type, which also is a compound we defined. Python dependency now has everything a dependency has as attributes, and adding 3 more, which is name, version, and a set of further dependencies. Ref2 in this case defines the type of the set of the dependencies, so we can not only put Python dependencies in there. A concrete variable based on Python dependency is pyzbar with a name, the same name used to install the pip package, and a version. This needs to always be filled, and if you're tested, this needs to be always. There always needs to be a version. So just use the version you tested your service with, and that makes it work. So in the future, it doesn't break on a version change of the module. This module also has further dependencies, and here we're using ref_by to fill this set. Ref_by is then used when we refer to another variable that, like pyzbar, is a concrete variable, not just a type. VIL is a variability instantiation language, and it defines the instantiation process of the project. So this defines the overall process and order of things to be executed. VTL is the file type that focuses on the specific instantiation of text artifacts or binary artifacts. It executes the instantiation process for a specific configuration, and it produces finished generated Py or Java files, which then can be used, for example, as our templates to further work on them. VIL more or less structures the VTL process, and both use IVML files as a basis, so your description. You should not need to work with these files as mentioned, as the description is what the user needs to give. So what have we learned in this slide set? We've learned what each file type is responsible for in the code generation, so VIL, VTL and IVML. And we've had a rough introduction to the defining and instantiation of data types in IVML. How to go on? As this is a slide set that would come before the actual service creation but can be watched at any point, go on with how to edit data types, if you haven't started with the actual tutorial up until now, or just keep going from wherever you left off.